Hello, everyone. My name is Nikolai, and I'm a software engineer, part of the Sitefinity team that is responsible for the development of the Next.js Renderer. The purpose of this video is to showcase what Next.js widgets are and how they can be extended. So to begin with, I'll briefly demonstrate what parts the Next.js widgets consist of. We have the widget entity. The widget entity is a class that has some properties defined in it. And these properties are the ones that will appear in the widget designer. As you can see here, this is an example, one of our out-of-the-box widgets, the breadcrumb and its entity. As you can see, the properties of the entity are decorated with attributes, which come from a library that we have specifically created for this purpose. Using these attributes, we can add some metadata about these properties and, for example, define what selectors will be used for the property, where it will appear in the widget designer, and some other metadata about the property. I will not go into more detail. The library that we have created for it is called Widget Designers SDK, and it's public and can be found at npm. It has some its own documentation and can be exported separately. So here we have the entity of the breadcrumb widget, and all the properties defined here will appear in the widget designer, as we will later see on the demo. The next building component of the widgets is the widget functional component. The widget functional component is a standard Next.js functional component which accepts properties of type widget context. This type widget context is generic and accepts an argument which is the type of the widget entity. What does this widget context hold? It holds some meta information about the widget, some information about the current request, and of course the widget model. The widget model is practically holds all the properties that the user has selected and applied in the widget designer. So based on all of this information, inside the main functional component of the widget, we apply our business logic. And finally, after applying the business logic, we render some view. The view is responsible for what will be rendered on the front end. So here we have the default view of the breadcrumb widget. It accepts view properties, which are being built inside the main functional component. These view properties hold, again, information about what the widget will render on the front end. Based on these properties, which are passed from the main functional component into this functional component, which is the view does its magic and basically renders what the user sees on the front end for this widget. These are the main components of the widgets. Let's get into extending the out-of-the-box widget. So for the purpose of this demo, I have created in advance several files to showcase how our out-of-the-box widget can be extended. They can be extended in 3 different ways. We can extend the widget entity by adding custom fields to it or by modifying some of the existing ones. So practically, we can extend the widget designer. We can create custom views so that when applying the widget on a page, we can select either one of the provided out-of-the-box views, or we can select another custom view that we have specifically created for our business case. And of course, last but not least, we can extend the whole functional component of the widget by replacing it by a functional component created by us, which holds all of the business logic that we need. Before I go into the code, I will just quickly create a Next.js page, just so we can see visually all of the changes that we make during the demo. So here, to create a Next.js page, I will have to select a Next.js template, and this will automatically create a page rendered by the Next.js renderer. Here's my page, and I will, just for the sake of the demo, I will add a simple breadcrumb widget. And here's the breadcrumb widget. This is the default view of the breadcrumb widget. It just shows the pages here. Here's the pages that I have on my website. And here's the widget designer of the breadcrumb widget. So let's publish this just to make sure that our changes are saved and will be not lost. And let's get into extending the widget. As I already mentioned, one of the ways to extend the out-of-the-box widget is by modifying the widget entity. How does this happen? Here, I have created a custom class that I have called extended breadcrumb with widget extended breadcrumb entity, and this class extends the breadcrumb entity that we have previously seen and which comes out of the box from the Next.js renderer. So we extend out of the box entity, and here we will define a custom property. For the sake of demo, I have created this, I have named this property test prop, and I will display it. I have set some display name just to be easier to identify this property in the widget designer, and I have placed it in the I have placed it in the breadcrumb setup section on this specific index. So if I save these changes, I now have to register this class. So okay, I have created the class here, but the Next.js renderer doesn't know about it yet. In order for it to work, we have to register this entity in the widget registry. What is the widget registry? The widget registry is a data structure, let's say it this way, which holds information about all the widgets that we have in our renderer. So here is the default widget registry, which registers all the widgets that come out of the box from the solution. In order to modify this information, we want, in this specific example, for the time being, we just want to modify the registry for the Sitefinity breadcrumb widget. So we have first to get it. Here in the default widget registry, we have a property named widgets. And based on the key of the widget, which is Sitefinity breadcrumb in this example, we get the breadcrumb registration. And in this registration, what we want to do is replace the entity that comes out of the box from the solution, which is the breadcrumb entity, with the entity that we have just created, extended breadcrumb entity. And then we initialize this registry. This is all we have to do. After we save, if we come here and if we open the widget designer, we can see that our custom property appears here, and we can apply some data into it and save it. Okay, great. We have created the custom property. The next thing I would like to show you is how to override some metadata about an existing property. So in this breadcrumb entity, we have this breadcrumb include option property, and let's say that we let's see it on the front end. This is the first property in the widget designer, which says what will be included in the breadcrumb, whether it will be the full path to the current page or a path starting from a specific page. And by default, the first option is selected. Let's say that our business case requires the second option to be selected by default. So what we can do, we can override the property that is defined in the base entity, and we can define a new a new default value for this property. So in the base entity, the default value is the first option. And here in our extended entity, we override this by overriding the property and setting the default value attribute. And we say that we want the second option to be selected by default. All other attributes that we can see here are defined for this property in the base entity will be inherited. So there's no need to redefine them. We just want to here to define the properties to attributes that we want to override. And if we save this and reopen the widget designer, here we can say that by default, the second option is selected now. That's it for extending the breadcrumb, the widget entity. Let's go and create a custom view for this widget. Out of the box, we have only the default view of the widget, which is this one. For the sake of the demo, I have prepared in advance a view, which is, as I already mentioned, a plain Next.js functional component, which accepts the view properties of the widget. So for the breadcrumb widget, this is the breadcrumb view properties. And these view properties are generated, and we will accept now the extended breadcrumb entity that we have just created and registered in the widget registry. So if we, let's say that we want, just for the sake of the demo, display the custom property that we have previously added to the widget designer, our test prop. We want to display this in our custom view. A thing to mention here is that whenever we define custom views or whole custom components, custom functional components for our widgets, whenever we render something on the front end, we must always render a wrapper HTML component that renders the attributes coming from the view properties. These attributes are needed by the page editor so that it can identify that this is a widget. The widget can be recognized so that all these menus will appear here, and the widget will appear in the page structure, and so on and so forth. So basically, this is a must, and it's needed for the widget to be recognized by Sitefinity as a widget. Otherwise, this HTML will be rendered, but this will not be not recognized as a widget. So we render the attributes in the wrapper HTML component, and inside of it, we render the property that we have previously added to the breadcrumb entity. After we have created our custom view, we again have to register it in the widget registry. The process is very similar to what we have done with the entity. So in our widget registry, we have a property called views. This holds all the views for the widget. And here I define my custom view, which is called extended view. I pass some title, some human readable title to it. And here we have a view function property, which will point to the view that I have just created, extended breadcrumb view. And if I save this and go to the demo itself, here in the breadcrumb template property, I already see my custom view. And if I select this and save, our custom view will be rendered here. And this text is exactly what I have entered here. So if I change it, it will be rendered. Okay, great. We have seen how to create some custom views, but what if we would like just to tweak a bit the default view? So let's say the default view is perfectly fine for us, but we have to add something to it. Of course, we can still reuse the views that are defined out of the box by the Next.js renderer. And in this example, here I do some modifications about the breadcrumb items that come from the widget properties, and I reuse the default view that is exported by the Next.js renderer. So I modify the properties to just add a slash in front and after the breadcrumb title, and here I reuse the existing view. And if I save this, here we can see that automatically this is refreshed, and here we can see that the changes are applied. We reuse the out-of-the-box view just by, and here we can see our modification applied. I wanted to show you this just for making clear that the views defined out of the box can be reused. And finally, we can override the whole functional component of the widget. So let's say if we want to reuse the breadcrumb as a widget, and we don't need to create a whole new custom widget, we just can create a new functional component which will replace the the out-of-the-box functional component of the widget. And here we can define our own custom logic. So for the sake of the demo, this is just a very simple component. It pretty much looks like a view, but here we can apply all of the business logic that we need. And again, as I already mentioned, we have to have a wrapper HTML element which renders the attributes that are needed by the page editor to recognize this as a widget. And here, just a simple text message to identify that we have successfully overridden the whole functional component of the widget. After we have created this functional component, we again have to register it in the widget registry. So we get the breadcrumb registration, and we say that its component type is no longer the out-of-the-box type provided by the Next.js renderer, but will be replaced by the extended breadcrumb functional component that we have just created. And if we save this, we will see on the left side on the screen that automatically the changes are taken into account and the whole functional component is replaced. And we can see it on the screen. So pretty much that's it, what I wanted to show about extending the widget. The last thing that I want to mention is that the ability to select views for a widget can be applied for custom widgets as well. So for example, if we have a business case that needs a certain widget to have more than one view, you can implement this in your custom widgets. How? You have to take advantage of this render view component. This component accepts a name, which is the name of the view that it will render, and view properties, which is the properties that will be passed to this specific view. So here's the breadcrumb widget again. We have this render view component, and we say, okay, this is the view that I want you to render, and these are the properties that this view will accept as an argument based on them to render what it would like to render on the front end.